tonight is sort of an interesting night because it's the eclipse, the lunar eclipse, and so we didn't have arati, we didn't have yagna. It's a time that is not considered auspicious to do outside puja, outside worship, but is considered very auspicious for internal work. So since we didn't have arati, we're here much earlier, but I'm so glad that you're all here early. I wanted to share to begin before we started with the questions. For me, one of the most powerful messages and teachings that the eclipse gives us, that the moon gives us. When we look at the full moon, we say, wow, God, that moon is so bright, so beautiful. And you know, for forever probably, but we have records of it from at least hundreds, if not thousands of years. There are poems and songs and sonnets written about the moon, about how beautiful it is, about the light that it brings us, about how it guided the sailors home in the dark or guided people lost in the forest home. And yet, the moon doesn't actually have any light of its own. The moon is just a piece of rock floating in the atmosphere. I actually saw a special that was talking about how the moon probably even came from the earth, that at some point it actually was made from the same stuff that the center of the earth is made of. Just a rock. It's at the core of the earth, it's molten, it's hot, melted, gets into the cold atmosphere, it freezes into rock. But the moon never changes shape. It never goes from being round to being like this to actually disappearing. All that happens between a full moon and what we would call a lightless night, a moonless night, the new moon, the only thing that happens is the alignment that the moon is in, that orbit she is in, between the earth and the sun. She goes in and out of alignment. So, as I said, she has no light of her own. She's a piece of rock. But what she does so perfectly and so beautifully and so worthy of all of the poems and sonnets and songs is she reflects that light of the sun onto the earth. That's all she does. Piece of rock floating in the atmosphere. When she's very well aligned, we call it a full moon. Looks beautiful, fills us with awe, and turns the creatives in us into poets and songwriters. Helps guide people who are lost in the forest, help guide sailors in the days long before GPS, long before even maps, people used the full moon. But she has no light of her own. And to me, it's such a powerful and important lesson about our lives because we all want to bring light, right? I mean, if we went around, and we have so many beautiful students with us here tonight, if we went around and said, what do you want to do with your life? Always what you hear from people is something that is making a difference. So you hear about doctors, and you hear about teachers, and you hear about entrepreneurs and scientists and people who are going to discover things and create things and heal and teach. We all want to bring some level of light to the world in our own unique way. And yet, so many of us feel so frequently like we don't have any light. And we feel badly, we feel depressed, we feel dejected, we feel like, oh, mujh mein hai nahi kuch. There's nothing in me. And the moon is such a great inspiration and reminder. Kyunki usme bhi kuch bhi nahi hai. Right? There's nothing in the moon either. She's just a piece of rock. But what she's been able to do so beautifully is get into this alignment between the sun and the earth so that she can reflect that light of the sun onto us. And I take it as such a deep message for life that it's not about, oh, I should become the light. Don't have to do that. There's already the light of the divine. It's there, it's everything. If we want to bring light to the world, all we have to do is align ourselves with it. And on those days when you feel like, oh, nothing is happening through me, I'm not feeling light, I'm not bringing light, don't feel badly about yourself, but just ask yourself one question. How did I get out of alignment, and how can I get back in alignment? Right? I mean, on a new moon day, what we call Amavasya, what people refer to as a moonless night, a lightless night. If you heard the moon say, oh, I'm so depressed, oh, there's no light, oh, I can't do anything, I'm useless today, you'd say, oh, silly moon, don't feel so badly, just give it a couple of days, you'll be back on track, it's all right. You're coming back into alignment, slowly, slowly, slowly. Before you know it, you'll be full again. And it's such a great message for all of us, is just remember, we all go through it, even the moon goes through it. Phases where we feel full, phases where we feel half, phases where we feel nothing. But to remember that like the moon, we're always full. She's always full. She's just not able to always reflect that fullness on others. But even on the moonless night, she's still a full moon. The whole moon is there. If you landed on the moon, you wouldn't say, oh God, I landed on the wrong day. It's a new moon day. There's no day to land. There's no moon to land on. The moon doesn't disappear from under your feet on new moon days. If you landed on the moon, you'd see the whole moon, the full moon, it's all there. She's just not able to reflect it. And so as we're having this eclipse today, it's a beautiful opportunity to really think about that of, number one, if you want to bring light to the world, all it means is you've got to connect to that source, connect to the divine light. Don't kill yourself thinking you've got to somehow create or become or manifest something inside. It's not about that. The divine light is there. We're all connected to it already. We just have to plug ourselves in. If this light wasn't working, well, you wouldn't have to rebuild the whole thing. You just have to plug it in. Right? If there was no light, the first thing we would do, oh, it's not plugged in. Right? When your computer doesn't work, what's the best way to fix a computer? Turn it off and back on. Right? It's what all of those of us who are not techies know how to do. Turn it off, turn it back on. Phone doesn't work, turn it off, turn it back on. It reconnects it to the power source. Just gives it a reset. And so in the same way in our lives, just whenever I see the full moon, it reminds me, and especially on times of eclipses, because in our life also it happens that we feel like we have this light, but it's being blocked. I've got so much to give, I've got so much to share, but I'm being blocked, I'm being thwarted in some way. And the eclipse just reminds us This is the time to meditate. It's why during the eclipse we're told, right? Don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. There's a whole list of things you're not supposed to do. What are you supposed to do? Meditate. Pray. Go within. So in the same way in your lives, if you ever feel like you're being blocked, that your light is being blocked, just, it's okay, it'll pass. The eclipses always pass. They come, then they pass. Just take that time and go within. Use that time to meditate. Use that time to pray. And then when that eclipse is over, make sure that you are in alignment and plugged in to that source so that you can really fully shine that light. So that for me is the really powerful teaching of the moon. We'll take a question that has come from our global audience, joining us via the internet, our online audience. And then I'll open it up to any questions that anyone here has. Are academic grades, oh, what a perfect question for having so many students in our audience. Are academic grades a good measure of intelligence? By Sean Raja Karuna. Academic grades are not a good mark of intelligence, in my opinion. Academic grades are a very good mark of how well you have understood what the teacher is asking of you, which on some level is an aspect of intelligence, because as you move through the world, in jobs, in careers, in relationships, in society, it's really helpful to be able to understand, what is this moment asking for? What's required of me in this moment? I might know so much. I might have so many different skills. But what does this moment need? This person in front of me, what do they need? And so on some level, that is an aspect of intelligence, of knowing. What are they going to want from me? What's their focus? What's she emphasizing? What's he stressing in class? What are the points that the teacher has mentioned over and over and over again? Consider it a great lesson in relationships. Because if you can understand what the teacher thinks is important, then you're going to be able to understand what your friends, what your loved ones, what your later husbands or wives will think is important. And that's important, because when you're in relationship with someone, when you love them, if they keep emphasizing something, you should understand, oh, that's important to them. Just like the teacher shouldn't have to say, oh, by the way, this is going to be on the exam. We should have enough intelligence to know if they've just said it 10 times and every day they say it. Chances are they think it's important. Chances are it'll be on the exam. And that'll stand you in really good stead in your life. Otherwise, in relationships, one of the things that husbands and wives and best friends fight about so much is, how could you not know? This was so important to me. How did you not know? You hurt me so much. You forgot my birthday. You forgot this. You forgot that. You didn't comfort me at this time. I was really hurting. And the other person so frequently says, my God, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. I didn't know it mattered to you so much. I didn't know you cared so much. Why didn't you tell me? And then, of course, we say, well, I shouldn't have to tell you. You should just know. If you love me, you should know. So learning to become intuitive with that intelligence of knowing what people think is important, that's a good mark of intelligence. But beyond that, getting good grades in school really simply is measuring how well you answer what the teacher asked. If they asked things you knew, you get a good grade. If they asked things you didn't know, you don't get such a good grade. But that doesn't mean you're less intelligent. It might mean you didn't study at all. It might mean you were awake all night long the night before the exam and you were totally exhausted and couldn't even think straight. It might mean 100 other things. It doesn't mean you're not intelligent, though. Similarly with scores, exams, standardized exams, all they test is how well you take that test. School teaches us something very important, though. It doesn't only teach us facts and figures and information. It's not through that we become intelligent. School teaches us how to learn. It teaches us how to focus, how to pay attention, how to formulate ideas, how to store things in our brain. Oh, they said this yesterday, they said this today, they don't actually match. Huh, that's interesting. I will ask them about that. Our education gives us actually the ability to learn. But it's not measuring your intelligence. So you should never feel badly if you're not doing well in school or getting good grades. Get help. Talk to the teacher, get a tutor, find out what is it that's going on. Maybe you need to study in a different way, learn a different way, focus on different subjects, get some extra help in certain subjects, whatever it is. It's just a skill. Classwork is a skill. Taking tests is a skill. It's an important skill, so you should try to learn to do it as well as you can, because unfortunately our world takes that skill to be important. Right or wrong, you absolutely will be judged by your grades. Right or wrong, you will be judged on your exam scores. So you might as well learn how to do the best that you can, but you should never feel badly inside. Because it is not, I repeat, not, and I speak to you as someone who was a straight A student. Okay, so these are not the words of someone who failed and was just trying to make herself feel better. I speak to you as someone who was a straight A student who graduated from Stanford University. So first I had to get in. So I speak from the level of someone who actually did do well. Doesn't measure your intelligence at all. I knew a lot of people who did very well in school. Not necessarily the most intelligent. A lot of other people didn't necessarily do so well in school, but very intelligent. Just intelligent in different ways. Typically more creative ways. Brains that function in different ways. So never feel badly about yourself, but definitely try to get the best grades you can, because unfortunately our world still judges and measures things accordingly. So you'll find in your life that a lot more doors open for you if you've got good grades. And the goal in life is just to have as many doors open as possible. So you have as many options, as much possibility in your life as possible. Other questions? Any question that anyone? Yes, Carrie. आपको वो लेडी को दे दीजिएगा. बैठते हुए लेडी, हाँ आपके सामने. Thank you.
Hello. So I went to Vashishta Gula today, and by some miracle of grace, I was in the cave for almost 2 hours alone, even though there were literally buses of people there. And I met that portal that we had talked about, where it feels like I'm just going to go in and dissolve. And once again, I met the resistance. And we had talked about what to do in the moment, but I'm really it was a beautiful experience, and I was offered many beautiful things, so I'm very grateful. But what I'm curious about, Sadhviji, is what I can do in my sadhana to prepare myself so that one day, when that opens, I dive in.
Beautiful. So she's speaking about that experience that we have when we meditate, where we go deeper, 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 deeper. And then, for so many of us, as it opens, there seems to be something in us, that ego self, that actually makes us pull back. And this is something that I've heard not only personally from so many people, but that is a very commonly spoken about game of the ego. You're just about to dissolve, to step into that experience of just pure consciousness. And something in the mind goes, ah! And it uses whatever excuse it needs to, and it pulls you back. So what to do to be prepared for that? Faith is probably the best key. Because our ego serves to protect us. It ends up suffocating us and thwarting us and harming us in so many ways. But its light side, its ultimate goal in its creation was to protect us. Therefore, it doesn't want to dissolve. So faith. Faith in that into whose arms you are melting and merging. Yes, what we're melting and merging into is a pure, infinite ocean of consciousness. But it's very hard to feel warm and fuzzy about that. It's a lot easier to feel warm and fuzzy about some aspect of the divine we have faith in, and that's beautiful. It's why the bhakti tradition is such a powerful, beautiful spiritual path and tradition that has been followed by so many masters. So, see which aspect of the divine you feel closest to. And then develop faith. Spend as much time as you can really developing faith so that when you hit that point, it's a jump into the arms of the beloved who you know is going to catch you, rather than a jump into that void, which no matter how much intellectually we know, we've read, we've studied, it's where we want to go, nonetheless, when we get there, we've got that teetering on the edge feeling, and we tend to fall back into the arms of the ego. Get a lot closer into the one into whose arms you're going to be dropping. Yeah. Yes. Thanks, love.
Intelligence is the God gift, or one can increase his intelligence by birth?
I am so sorry, actually. I've just received a note. There's a function I have to be at with our honorable governor at the ashram next door, and I thought we had a lot more time because I thought they were coming from around the barrage, which was going to take them an extra good half an hour, but I just got a note that they are actually at Janki Bridge, which is just, as you know, not even 5 minutes from here. And I have to be on the stage with the governor at a function at the ashram right next door in 5-7 minutes, it seems. So I'm going to have to go. But I hope you'll be with us tomorrow night because we'll be able to have our full satsang tomorrow in the evening. If by any chance you're not going to be here, what I would ask is get your question to our Seva team, and they will get it to me in writing in advance, and I'll take it first tomorrow morning. And to everyone, I'm so sorry for rushing off. I was hoping to have another 20, 25 minutes with you, but as they say, yoga teaches us to be flexible, not only in the body, but in our lives, and especially for the beautiful opportunity to be with our Honorable Governor. So much love to you all, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.